Good morning. I'm speaking today to Margaret Weithera-Bachlechner, and Margaret is involved with the rain workers. Margaret, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Mr. James. I'm glad to be invited to be here with you today.
Thank you very much. Margaret, the rain workers, tell us a bit about the rain workers, please.
The Rain Workers Organization was founded by a gynecologist, an Austrian gynecologist by the name of Maria Hensberger in 1989. It was initially known as the Action Regen, but we have changed the name to the Rain Workers since 2 years ago. It involves sexual and reproductive education. And the main theme here is knowledge as a chance, in the sense of sexual and reproductive knowledge for the people, especially down in the South. That is in East Africa, where I am very much engaged since 2003.
Okay, so the rain workers is aimed at young women, women of all ages, I imagine. Tell us a bit about this. Why was this started to begin with? What was the need for this sexual education?
The need for this was from the founder, Maria Hensberger, having worked in Ethiopia and realized that most of the women do not know about their reproductive health in the sense of their cycle and also how to go about family planning in the sense of birth spacing. Women in the South suffer a lot that without this knowledge of how their body function and how they can go about it, because culturally it's not talked about and it's not spoken out. And she saw this as a point of entry for her to bring this knowledge and see that the women and the men are educated, informed, that they can be able to make their own sexual and reproductive health decisions by themselves.
It's a very interesting point. You said the women and the men. Most people, I imagine, think it's only the women involved, but the men are just as important in this project. Tell us a bit about how do you go about educating men in this direction?
We start educating men or to include them in this family planning program by first of all making them realize they are the key players because they are the fathers and they are the ones who make these children biologically by nature. It's not the woman alone. So it is good to look into this partnership and walk along the family life together, not just leave for the women to be the one who are responsible about finding out how they are going to go about their fertility.
It's interesting you say the men are the key players, which is, of course, how it is. But this is a big cultural thing. Men have this idea that they're the bosses, they do this, and the women must more or less be their slaves. How is this coming across now? Thanks to the rain workers.
Thanks to the rain workers, because our topics are so well designed to as an inclusion for both. But first, we start by educating the woman to know herself so that she can be able to express herself to the man. And bringing in the man also, despite the cultural, the cultural hierarchy in Africa, for example, it's good to let them know what kind of a person they are dealing with as the mother of their children. It's not just a woman, it's a human being, it's an identity, and it should be aware, know her, as she already knows herself from our educational approach, and be able to negotiate about how to go about their family life in future.
You mentioned education, but education is a very big word. What is the difference in countries where people are educated, there's schools and everything else, and the countries where there are no schools or insufficient schooling? Isn't education in general the secret of the success?
Yeah, in general and in the educating people or educating women to know themselves, to be aware of what they are, gives them a sense of self-reliance and self-ability to negotiate about them.
Okay. But what about the school system in these countries? Is if all the girls were to be educated or given the same chances, what sort of difference would this make?
uh, the education system, yes, we have science subjects, biology, but it has never been contained to the self person. It's a
Hmm.
booklet, it's the anatomy, this is how it is, but behind that, there is more than just the drawings and seeing yourself outside. There is the inner person, and that is what we educate, inform, educate, and then motivate a woman and also the men to make informed decisions about their sexual and reproductive health.
How is this project being accepted in these countries by the traditional people, the men in particular? Um, are you finding any resistance towards this thing? Tell us a bit about this, Margaret, please.
Yeah, it has not been an easier road for me since I started to realize that something, and I have got something from Austria which I can bring down to my people and they will be able to help themselves. First of all, I got the approach from, it was Millennium Development Goals by then, but now it's Sustainable Development Goal. Number one is about eliminating poverty. The question is, how do you eliminate poverty without balancing the sustainability of um, income and, I mean, supply and demand?
Mhm.
We have a population. Are we producing enough? Or not even we? I, as a mother and a father, do we have enough for the children we are having or we plan to have before we have them? Because if we don't plan to have a sustainable family, which we can sustain and we can take care of, we are only recycling that poverty back. And this is an issue in Africa or in East Africa, my own area of operation.
So poverty, people being very, very poor, is the basic problem. But of course, you need money to produce things, and many of these people don't have this money. How is this being handled? And you also need training in this. And tell us a little bit more about this. It's
Yeah, this is where now comes money. If you have children and you have more, first of all, look at your own income possibilities. And this starts from the word go as a young man and a young woman. When you get together to be involved in a relationship that will bring a child, are you ready for this? Are you financially ready or in the scope of the trainings or the job opportunities you intend or you foresee? How many children can you be able to give a better life? Without giving these children a good education, the chance is that they will also end up in a competitive job market where they cannot be able to fit in. Education being the basis of being having a future economical, uh, I mean, safety or,
okay. Um,
yeah.
some people are better off working for themselves, making clothes or doing these things. Uh, I've heard of microcredits. Tell us a bit about this microcredits. It's that's interesting too.
Yeah, it came up from my being involved in the environmental projects in the early 1983, 84 with the late Prophet Wangari Maathai, whereby we went out to the women and realized that these women have no income for themselves. It is a coffee growing area whereby once the coffee is harvested, the men come and get paid. It's not the woman. But what could we do for the woman that can get something which directly can handle and it's hers per se? And it came to my mind through the guidance of Professor Wangari Maathai to try and see what can these women start. And that by that time we did not have actually the name. Now it's microfinancing, microcrediting. And now comes this organization also from Austria, microcrediting, and we emerged this to help the women to be financially self-sustainable in a way.
So this idea came from Austria, or a lot of help came from Austria is a better way to put it. How has Austria helped in this project really?
Austria, in the first place, has helped a lot by supporting women down in our countries, eastern and also, let me call them the southern countries, to see that women are empowered by being financially sustainable, that they can be able to make decisions also on their finances. For example, it has helped a lot to eliminate the practice of female genital mutilation, which affects the girls. Traditionally, the girls, once they have gone through FGM or the CAT, they are not supposed to continue with school. But if the mothers are able to pay school fees for these girls, the chance is that the men will not marry out the girls for their as an investment. So this has helped a lot.
So things are changing. Women, girls are no longer things to be sold for an investment. Um, because of what you're doing, the women are earning the money. Um, but microcredits always involve risk. You give somebody money and you must get it back. How or why are women more reliable than men in this sense? Because these are microcredits for women, not for men. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what it means. It comes as a microfinancing package.
Okay.
But part of that package goes like we have a women bank down in Kenya or in East Africa. We have women's bank. That part of that which is given in one package, a particular portion goes for women's empowerment in the sense of creating some businesses and what they can get direct the money. They still pay at a particular percentage, but at a very, very lower rate.
Okay. Mm. And are women reliable? Are women good at doing what they're doing? Are they reliable?
Women are very reliable in the sense that they know how to go about really uh, helping themselves. When it comes to helping oneself, the women are on the forefront. They know they have no way out unless they do it by themselves, and they can be trusted. Not that the men cannot be trusted, but they trust themselves to be able to make it.
So really, the future is in the hands of women, in a
The, the,
sense.
yeah.
How do you see this going in the future? It's very, very interesting. You were involved with sexual education and then microcredits, all these things. You work in Austria. You somehow coordinate. Tell us a bit what you do in Austria for.
First in Austria, I was fortunate enough to have met a volunteer from the Austrian Development Corporation early in the 1982s. He was in Kenya, and through my engagement with women projects as a volunteer, I came to know him. That's my husband now, Mr. Bachlechner. And after 2 or 3 years of uh, interacting in what he was doing as a volunteer and what I was doing as a volunteer, which I'm still until today a volunteer. Later, we got married. After getting married, he was working with SOS International in Nairobi. So he has been in Kenya. He was in Kenya for the last 34 years of his life. That's where we met, got married after 3 years of knowing each other, and that way, I was able to come later in 2005. Our children were big enough that we needed them to join the Austrian education system in Austria. I came with the children, we have 3 boys, and my husband stayed for some years still down. And then I realized here, I can do something. I talked to people about what I have been doing all these years, even before I met my husband. And then they said, we can form an organization or a club. This is the club Tukutane e.V. It's registered in Germany because most of the people I met in Kenya associated with the environmental activities were from Germany. And with this organization, I have been able now also to get to the rain workers organization and also combine microfinancing, microcrediting initiative, and sexual and reproductive. They go very well parallel to each other because, as I said, it's a matter of demand and supply. We cannot help these women unless they are also able to have a family which they can sustain or feel that together with the men they can sustain, and also for their own health, that they are able to live healthy and be able to take care of their families alongside their men, like I'm doing with mine.
But you're doing very, very much, Margaret. It's a question of dignity in the end, dignity for women. Um, Margaret, you mentioned the rain workers. Could you very briefly give us an idea of what the rain workers is? It's a society, I imagine, but please, you tell us just a little bit about rain workers.
The Rain Workers Organization is an organization which is based in Austria, in Vienna, and it supports the empowerment of women in the sense of the education, information about their own sexual and reproductive health. And we train young people, elderly people, families in the communities down in East Africa to be aware of why it is very important to have a planned family, to practice what we call family planning. And this should not be misunderstood from down that we are coming to tell them don't have children. No, you have children that you can be able to sustain. And why family planning? What is family planning? Who should practice family planning? For example, when you bring the word who, I think it's only married couples. No, the young people have to start practicing that, beginning with their mind by knowing about their puberty, their sexual challenges, and be able to go about it with this knowledge and plan for their future family life. In schools, especially, is our stronghold because that's where these adolescent students start. This is natural and make them realize that it is nothing sinful about sex. It's how you go about it. So we encourage, our topics are more or less encouraging for us responsible sexual behavior among the young before you come to the in a family married couple.
What you're doing and the Rainmakers, Margaret, is building a very good future for all of these women. You're educating, you're going into schools, you're starting with the children when they're still young, I would imagine, and they're growing up thinking completely different. It's very, very interesting. Margaret, we've spoken for a while now, but before we finish, is there anything you would like to say that we haven't said or we should have said or what's important for you?
Yeah, one important thing is to thank the Austrian people who have supported this initiative, who listened to me when I came and appreciated what I'm doing and have supported me all these years. It's more than 18 years now that I've been with the Rain Workers organization. And I can see a big, big progress. I can see a big change from our men, and especially the elderly group who always thinks culturally, but do not look into the future. The future of our world, if not Africa, is the young generation. They are the ones who are going to cut down and get rid of the cultures and traditions which are not good. A culture of thinking that a woman is an instrument to use, not a person, to, to a culture whereby we don't think of being married is a partnership. Everybody has something to bring, and it should be negotiated on the same level, on the same table for a good future family, community, country, continental, worldwide.
Worldwide. Wonderful words, Margaret. A great place to finish. Margaret Weithera-Bachlechner, thank you very, very much. And I would imagine if anybody's interested, that they can Google rain workers and get more information that way. And it is
Yes.
an interesting topic. Margaret, thank you very, very much for talking to us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.